Young Turks at the Democratic National Convention. Not only is it the Young Turks, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, Ari Melber of the Nation. Forget about it. It's Ari Melber.
What's going on?
What's up, Ari?
We're doing it. We're doing it live.
Yeah, we certainly are.
We're doing it live.
All right, Ari, let me start you off this way in a completely random direction. Conventions, are they actually fun?
I am having a great time, so they're fun to me. I think the delegates have a total blast. You got to remember, of course, most of those people are volunteers and activists, so they do a lot of work, and they actually staff, to use the political term, right? They help out and volunteer at a lot of local events. And when Obama comes to town, a lot of times they're the ones helping hand out the tickets and do all the work and do the cleanup. And here they get to come in and really party.
And I want to understand this right. Other than doing the roll call vote, which, by the way, went by acclamation for half the states anyway, they really don't do anything here, right? They just come to party, basically.
No, I mean, they don't do anything in the traditional English definition of the word do. But
I mean, they have some caucuses, you know, the Black Caucus, the Latino Caucus.
I mean, look, if you're saying substantively, there are a small portion of delegates who also participate in the committees, the Credential Committee, the Rules Committee, and of course the Platform Committee. And so you could say that those folks actually do have a more substantive role. They're interacting with the Obama campaign on the platform. In the case of the Credentials Committee, that usually doesn't matter, but of course it can. I mean, it could have mattered if there was a fight over Obama-Clinton credentials. There wasn't. You know, those kind of things. So some of them have that role. Most of them are just here to cheer and party and get down.
So last night I'm at the Gavin Newsom party. Okay,
of course you were. Of course you were.
Please, because I'm cool and I'm hip.
Because you're a left coast liberal.
Yeah, obviously.
God forbid you go party with an Ohio politician. No,
I mean,
no,
really,
that wasn't going to happen.
No, of course not. I'm with the sexy people. So I see all these people there. They're not the usual suspects.
Right.
You know.
Right.
I don't think a lot of them are delegates. Not a lot of them are press. Not a lot of them are, you know, the progressive infrastructure that I know. So who are they?
Well, that's definitely true. You have all these new people, the 75,000 people here coming to Invesco today. Half of them are from Colorado. So the campaign definitely not only using this symbolically to reach out to this important swing state, but also making it like a giant local event. So rather than the usual thing where, you know, you have a New York or an LA or a big city that hosts this, and the people who live there, particularly the working, regular, middle-class people, have no access to it whatsoever. Forget the parties. They can't even see the politician. Here they're bringing those people in. And then there's a lot of people who came in from out of town. I was talking to Senator Rockefeller's son, who's been to many conventions before, so he had a comparison to make, and he said, while the delegates look very similar, there's a crush of young people everywhere he goes that he doesn't remember at any prior convention.
All right, that's great. So before I ask you about the speeches from last night, let me go a little over the top. Does anybody ever get late at these conventions?
Does anyone get late? You got 75,000 Democrats. I'm sure people are getting late. It's not really my beat.
It's not?
It's not my beat.
Who's on that?
However,
let's get that guy on the
I
show.
will tell you who, because I'd rather not talk about it. There's a blogger from Playboy here.
Oh, is that right?
Swear to God. So there are people who look at that side. Ari Berman from the magazine has reported a bit on the parties and what he calls the political party industrial complex.
Oh, really?
Because there's so much money and so many drinks flowing. I mean, I tell you, if there was a party that probably spawned it for anybody, it would have been the GQ party, because they teamed up with Maker's Mark, and there was so much alcohol flowing the whole night and trays of alcohol that, everyone started looking good.
All right. Of course I missed that. But and it's a good thing because I'm engaged. I'll tell you that right now. So don't even think about it.
Good.
But as you were saying it, I'll tell you, Ari Berman. And I thought, wow, Ari Berman got late? I was like, that's awesome. God bless. By the way, of course, Ari Berman and Ari Melber write for The Nation. So you can check that out.
Nation.com.
Nation.com. There you go. I'll say one more thing about the parties. Last night we're at the Gavin Newsom party.
Right.
And some guy's telling me about how he's going to make a movie with Danny Glover. He does feature films. He's got something about Obama. He's going to work with Danny Glover next. And I'm thinking, sure. Because everybody in L.A. has a story like that.
Yeah.
It's never really quite true. And then 30 seconds later, totally unrelated, Danny Glover walks.
Nice.
Okay. And I was like, well, now at least we get to find out if it's BS or not, right? And he goes up to Danny Glover, and Danny Glover gives him a big hug. Yeah. I was like, oh, my God, he's doing a movie with Danny Glover. And then it turns out that I knew the girlfriend of Danny Glover, except I forgot her name.
This isn't really a question. It's more of an extended name drop.
Well, first of all, it's definitely an extended story. Second of all, it's definitely not a question. And yes, it is a name drop. All right, now here's the point of the story. Danny Glover was a total aside and a name drop. But they had art around the wall. It was all about Obama. It was like modern art. They had one of him like in a white suit in front of the White House. They had hope signs everywhere. And I felt almost like a 1960s feel to it. Like these kids had hope, right?
Yeah.
And then I thought, what's going to happen to them if John McCain wins?
It's going to be debilitating.
Isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think, Zephyr Teachout, who was a big Dean organizer, talks about how presidential campaigns are the ultimate gateway drug to activism. They're exciting, they're important. You can move very quickly from being a random volunteer to getting attention or being interviewed or feeling that you have some influence on an important process. And that's a heady feeling for activism and volunteering. But, like any hard drug, in her analogy, you can burn out, you can OD, and you can end up a pretty sorry junkie or a pretty dead-end person, and you say, I just overdosed on this, I don't like it. And that was an issue with Dean activists. Some of them got really involved in the party and felt good. Some of them, of course, talk about how after Howard lost, nothing was the same. And I think Obama, who's inspired so many young people to think differently about politics, if they beat him, and by the way, if they do, it won't be on policy. It won't be on a fair fight. It will be by destroying his character and lying about him. And if they see this guy go down like that, I think it would be debilitating.
Yeah, that room, it was full. I don't know if there was 1,000 people there. I don't know if it was over 1,000. It was jam-packed. It was a big room. It was jam-packed. And you could feel the hope in the air.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And I was thinking of November 5th, they wake up and that old man, John McCain, is back, and it's the Republicans again. It's the same old thing, and the lobbyists are going to get rich, and the oil companies are going to get rich. And I think these kids, they're never going to get involved in politics again. They're going to think, it turns out you can't make a difference.
Well, and I think it's hard. Some will double down. Some will stay active. That's the gateway drug part. Some will stay in it. But I do think, especially given the real tenor of this campaign and the way it has struck a unique chord for so many activists and young people, yeah, it will be a real letdown.
And one last thing on that is they were from all different ethnicities. Obviously a lot of white kids, a lot of Latinos, blacks, Asians, Indians, just about everybody you could imagine, Ethiopians, everybody was there, right? It was the America that I knew, the America that I grew up in, right? And as you see the pictures of Obama around the room, you think he is their leader, he is their president. And then I had a mental picture of John McCain thinking, that guy doesn't represent these people at all.
Right, and this is important. Barack Obama did not win because a majority or even a plurality of white Democratic voters over 50 backed him. That's not how it happened. He won because in the early states in Iowa, young people turned out in unprecedented numbers and backed him. And then what happened was older Americans came around and they said, well, if my kid can back him, maybe he really can be president. Maybe things have changed more than I thought. People really did take the cue from the younger generations. And at the level of political science, people talk about whether primaries should be, all on one day, a super day primary, or spread out. I mean, I don't think you might have had the same effect there if you had the whole country voting. What happened was people got to know him there, and the young people, the cohort that I'm a part of, which is so exciting, stood up and said, we like him, we like that he's anti-war, we like that he's new, we don't care that he's an African American, and we don't care that people say that means he can't win. We understand that that's a hurdle, that he might not win because of that, but that's not a reason to hold back on supporting someone who's great. And a lot of older people came around, and that's what he's trying to do tonight, is to continue to bring around the cohorts that he's having more trouble with.
Well, I think that's a great point, because I've seen that from our listeners, too. We get emails. I remember reading a story about a delegate in New Jersey who flipped from Hillary Clinton to Barack Obama because she said, my kids convinced me. I've seen many articles on that, and I've seen many emails that we get on our website where people say, you know what, I was a little skeptical, or I didn't know much, but then my kids were so excited, so I learned a little bit more about it, and I came around to it, and now I'm excited. And it's a phenomenon I've never seen before in politics.
Well, and it's racial, but it is not determined by race, because African Americans over 40 also had the same skepticism. And prior to Iowa, the majority of the Congressional Black Caucus endorsed Hillary Clinton.
That's
and the polls
yeah.
showed incredible concern, not that the African American community had something against Barack Obama, not that they did not like him, but many felt that either they didn't know him, boy, we've heard that before, or he couldn't win. We hear that all the time. And again, it took younger African Americans and young activists and the color of change groups and a lot of the other, basically the other cohorts came through, and then the older generation of African Americans came around. So again, it's racial but not determined by race.
Absolutely. I even remember seeing polls a couple months before Iowa where Hillary Clinton was winning among African Americans.
Yeah.
And then you saw the stories after he won in Iowa of African Americans saying, "Oh my God, he can really do this."
Right.
And that was an enormous shift and a very important shift. All right, now, Ari, let's talk about how the convention has gone so far a little bit. We're talking to Ari Melber of The Nation. A lot of things they had to do: unite the party, fight against the Republicans, fight hard, etc. Had they checked off most of those boxes yet?
I mean, they've checked off a lot of the key boxes on the positive side. They got Michelle Obama out there introducing herself in a different way, giving a patriotic speech. They checked the Hillary Clinton box. I think they did a good job there, and I think Senator Clinton deserves credit for really conducting herself well. They got Joe Biden out front. They got him doing economic roundtables with Michelle during the day and getting that chemistry going. They got the visuals of Barack with Joe as a surprise on the pop-in last night.
Let me stop you right there for a second, Ari, because I'm glad you brought that up. I thought that was the most important part of Joe Biden's speech, and I thought they did a great job with it, and I was wondering why they were going to bring Obama in, not just to create more excitement, but when I saw it, I was like, I get it. Because they didn't bring just Joe and Jill Biden and their kids. They brought the whole Biden clan.
Yeah.
And you saw about 100 white, Catholic, Irish folks out there.
It's the Brady Bunch.
Right, with Barack Obama. And it was a way of saying, it's okay, he's with us.
Yeah.
And for you and I, that doesn't matter at all. But for a lot of Americans, it does. Because they think, he's got a foreign name, a different name, and I don't know if it's comfortable.
Yeah.
And I feel that a huge part of this convention was, the subtext was, it's okay, he's one of us.
Right. And I think that, among other reasons, gets to the box that's not fully checked, which is a consistent, withering attack on John McCain. We have not seen that. We have seen pockets of arguments, basically. We've seen John Kerry talk about patriotism. We've seen Joe Biden talk about economic populism. We have seen members of the Congressional Black Caucus talk about Katrina recovery and the incompetence of the Bush administration and John McCain's total support for those policies. All important points. What we have not seen stitched together is what the Republicans do so well, what they did to Kerry and what they are going to do to Barack next week. Glenn Greenwald at Salon has a post about this where he just reviews the quotes of how harsh and withering the consistent Republican message is against the nominee. And I think, although they've laid a glove on John McCain, they haven't picked a spot and wailed away at him. And they need to. And I think that's a place where this convention will ultimately, for a lot of folks, get a B, B+, not an A.
That's a great point, Ari. And the two parts that I thought where they did best and what they should have done 10, 20 times more. I'm not dissatisfied with the convention. I was terribly dissatisfied with the 2004 Kerry convention. At the time, we were in the same exact place, and I was thinking the whole time, this sucks, change it, right? I don't feel that way about this convention. But the two parts that worked were when Bill Clinton said, look, here's the record. Here's what the Democrats did. Here's what the Republicans did. Why would you hire them again to do this terrible job? And it was so good and so logical that you thought, why doesn't every speech have that in it?
Well, and that Bill does it in that great way where he says, and so you need to tell them thanks, but no thanks. And you're just sort of like, wow, it's so basic, and I've heard that before, but it sounds so good when you do it, and he really is that master communicator when he wants to. The other thing about Bill Clinton's speech, I thought, was for the first time, he took Barack Obama and draped his legacy over him. He embraced him and said, we both were attacked for being inexperienced. We both were attacked for this campy idea of hope Arkansas, or hope, this change message in the campaign, and we both can prevail. He had never shared his legacy with Barack like that.
Interestingly, I felt that they were finally building that bridge to the 21st century. And finally, John Kerry did a good job, because he had an actual withering attack on foreign policy, saying, look, we're just as patriotic as they are. Of course we are. And he mentioned that in the speech. But they're actually bad at national security. They've been bad in Iran, North Korea, Iraq, etc. They're wrong, we're right. And it's something that, shockingly, you don't hear the Democrats saying that much. I mean, you hear them saying, oh, no, we're just as good, or we're just as patriotic, or yeah, please, we can do national security. But you never hear them saying, no, they suck at it, right? They're pathetic, and we're good at it.
Right, and that the fundamental battle that we are in is the battle against terrorists, and this administration is losing that battle.
Yes.
That's, when we talk about losing, that's what we have. They are losing it, and we need to change direction. Barack Obama's outlined that, and he was consistent and right from the beginning about prioritizing a fight against terrorists, but not bogging down in the civil war in Iraq. And that is a very important message that, as you say, although Barack does talk about it in his stump speech, I haven't seen it hammered home in a repetitive way here, which is what these conventions are about. And the other point is, people think, and it's sort of popular to say, oh, none of this stuff really matters. Well, that's bull. This matters a lot.
Oh, absolutely.
The attacks against Kerry during that convention mattered, and 5 times as many Americans watched the second day of this convention than the Kerry convention. People are tuning in more. That's 22 million people according to Nielsen. So people are watching, and when they need to hear, these contrasts.
Wow, great. All right, Ari Melber of The Nation.